Good evening and welcome to a slightly different show today for the FTB FA Cup reaction show, where we'll be talking about all the Premier League teams in the FA Cup today. Of course, I'm joined by some fantastic guests. We've got Darius today. Darius, how are you?
I'm not bad, thank you. Just done a Tottenham reaction, so just watched them play Marine. It was very, very entertaining game, even though they're 8th division. But yeah, it was a good game to watch.
Good stuff, good stuff. We'll talk about them in a bit. Not that I will enjoy that conversation, but we'll talk about that game. And of course, we've got Al Fit. Al,
hello, mate. You all right?
Good to see you again, mate.
Yeah, and you, mate. You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. And Sam, welcome. How are you?
That's all I need to say. Just have a look behind me. That's it.
You can tell, Sam is obviously an avid Spurs fan. So me, myself, an Arsenal fan, is now joined by 3 Spurs fans who are in a very good and happy mood. So I look forward to this show tonight. It should be exciting for me. Good stuff. Well, we might as well kick straight on then, shan't we, gents? We'll go to the first game and we'll discuss a team that you probably won't want to discuss, but I'll see how much I can get out of you. We will go with the Arsenal-Newcastle game to start with. 2-0 Arsenal. Sam, what did you make of the game? What did you think of Arsenal's performance?
So I did see most of this game, to be fair. It wasn't the most entertaining game in the world. Like, certainly that first half, even the second half weren't that great. It kind of hung on that decision about the red card, I think, for me, because then it went into extra time after that. It wasn't a red card, obviously, we know that. And I think it was a case of Arsenal just probably wore them down. Newcastle did have a couple of opportunities towards the end of the second half. They didn't take them. And it's always a case, if you don't take them chances in a game like that, against a team like that, because Arsenal got some good players, and there were some good players on show, it's going to come back and bite you, which it did. And if I looked at the game, and I am going to be neutral here, look at the game as a whole, Arsenal probably did deserve to win it overall.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point, to be fair. I agree with some of the points there. I mean, Al, obviously, we've spoken loads about Arsenal and things like that over the last few shows. And yes, Arsenal have got some results. This is a game that they should be winning. But I still feel like it was a nervous time. And the performance for me wasn't a performance of, Arsenal was still a confident and still believing what kind of Arteta is trying to implement. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, Sam, you've been nice to him there. I thought that was the boring game of football. It was
I was being nice, actually, wasn't
I? It was just boring, and like, you're used to Arsenal being entertaining, and it seems like that little bit of entertainment is gone. And I feel that Arteta's just trying to find what team is like. We know when Mourinho's the manager, it's going to be dull. If Pochettino's the manager, it's going to be exciting. What is Arteta's style of play? Like, what are Arsenal going to be? And I think he's still finding it out. And like, I do honestly think he should get given time, and that's not because they're not doing well. That's because he's a young manager that should be given time. If you have faith in this manager to come to your club, then you should back him. And I think that just at least till the end of this season. I know he's won an FA Cup, and they'll always say, "Oh, he's won an FA Cup," but yeah, that was he took over during the season, didn't he? And so you're on the back of someone else's run.
Yeah,
like Di Matteo's won a Champions League, ain't he? And that really wasn't his team, was it? So if you think about it like that, it's more that, yes, he won the FA Cup, but now is his season. And let's see from here. Like, what's he had? Hardly any time. So let him build his team, and then we'll find out whether he was Pep's cone man or whether he's a good manager.
You see, Carly, I didn't go at him like that because I was trying to be, impartial. Yeah. But Al, I like that because I was going to say the same thing. They were awful. But like I said, they did what they had to do. They took their opportunities. And the youngsters, I like that Emile Smith-Rowe. I think he's a decent player. But in terms of what they are, I don't know. As you said, I don't know what Arsenal are at the moment. But they're getting results. That's 4 wins on the trot. You can't ask for any more than that.
Yeah, they should have won all them games though. So if you looked at, I think that they're games that they should be winning, and it's just that they were so bad before that now they've got. But you can't knock it. You still got to beat the teams in front of you, and they're still Premier League teams. But yeah, these are games they should be winning. When they start getting 2 or 3 tests and a bit of pressure comes on top, then we'll see. And I don't know if they'll crumble or whether they'll do well, because at the end of last season, when they did have the big test, they done well. So you never know. So I think it's in the air now. But Arteta, let him go to the end of the season and then assess it. That would be the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, I agree there. And touching on that point, Darius, bringing you in here, do you think that Arteta's under more pressure because of, he was obviously a very talented player, Spanish, the type of footballer he's grown up and been around, then being, not Arteta, sorry, being Pep Guardiola's number 2, do you think that now that he's got his own job, people expected him to come in and play that brand of football that's extremely exciting, lovely to watch, and he's not quite delivered on that yet? Do you think he's under more pressure because of that?
I think personally, and I know you can't really judge a whole fan base on a few fans, but I think seeing the fans' reaction to the way Arteta played, I think you won on the basis of a good defensive team, and you played 3 at the back. I understand that, but you can play 3 at the back and you can still deploy a style of play that's attractive. And I think Arteta kind of had that at the start of, towards the end of last season. They were playing some of the goals that Arsenal was scoring. There was about 20 odd passes in the style of play, and they were going forward and they were scoring good goals. So I think because it's not worked out and now you're looking worse in terms of the way you play football, I think now there's pressure on. But I do believe that Arteta can turn it around, and he's won an FA Cup. He beat teams that he had to, he had to use some sort of tactical nous to beat teams like your Chelsea's in the final and Liverpool and City. So I think that he's proven himself, but I do believe that it's the fans that have kind of put that added pressure on him, because if you actually look before Arsenal were actually in that bad run of form, they didn't really change much. They weren't playing any different. It wasn't like you were doing too much different. So I think that the fans just need to kind of let Arteta get his way across his team. I think the players that need to get out will go this season and next transfer window as well. So I do believe that it's going to come clean, but I think you have to give player managers, especially in his first job, you have to give managers like him time, and I think it will come clean. But yeah, I don't know. I think, like I said, that performance against Newcastle wasn't very good, and the only concern I'd have is with the youth is relying on the youth so early in their careers. If you rely on players like Emile Smith-Rowe already, if he doesn't come good in 3 or 4 games and he has a bad run of form, are you gonna get onto a player like him back? So yeah, that's my only concern with Arsenal at the moment. Really,
are we spending any more time on Arsenal cards? Yeah. The only other point I was going to make with regard to that is this Ozil situation for me.
I mean, is it finished? Is it done yet?
It's not done, man. I don't know what's going on. They keep saying, "Oh, he's moving out. He's gone." With Fenerbahce's taking him, but he's not going nowhere. They can't. Fenerbahce can't afford to pay him them wages. And if I was the player, and there was a good thing I saw on TalkSport where Gabby Ogbonnaho was saying he's in his rights. If it was the other way around and the club wanted him out because they could get him out, they'd get him out. Because they can't get him out because he's now tied to this deal it wasn't him. They didn't force him to sign the deal. They gave him the money. But you're telling me that somebody's going to try and take his wages on. No one's going to take them wages on. You got him for another 6 months, mate. That's it.
Yeah. Same as Jack Rodwell, isn't it?
Jack Rodwell done sit on it. Exactly.
Why wouldn't he? I would.
350 bags. Oh, you're mad.
I won't get in every penny of that somewhere else. I wouldn't go. Yeah, 100%.
I know I've talked to you enough about Arsenal, so we shall move on. And we'll move to another fantastic team who's been, not quite fantastic. They definitely, I know you guys will enjoy talking about them. Manchester United, Watford, just scraped through. Al, what did you think about this game? Obviously, a lot of people on the back of Harry Maguire after that performance. People saying he's not worth what he is. What did you make of Manchester United's performance and the result?
Yeah, well, Harry Maguire has always had a lot of stick, ain't he? For again, he's like we say, Ozil's going to take his wages. Harry Maguire don't choose how much he gets bought for, and I think that you got when these players getting bought and stuff like that, you don't decide how much you get bought for. You just got to play football, and he's not a bad player. He's not a bad centre back. He's not a great centre back. Is you worth that money? Well, who's worth what money now? Like you don't even know who's worth what, because 1 minute someone's worth. Look at our players that we bought for 15 mil. And Højbjerg and Doherty, to me, they're worth 50 million, 60 million. Højbjerg's worth Doherty, but Højbjerg. Yeah, I like Doherty. I really do. And I think that he's worth, without moving to Tottenham, I think he's worth more than 14 million or however much they paid for him. Yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, that's championship teams are paying 14 million for players. And this guy is a top player and he's a good player. And Højbjerg's worth 70, 80 million. And Yeah, so Maguire, with forgetting how much he's on, if they would have bought him for 20 mil, that's a snip there. He has some inconsistent performances, but he's solid, and so you can't really put the money on it. So yeah, in that general, I didn't watch the game fully. I watched bits of the game. I was watching that much more interested, married at first sight. So I thought to myself, I'll just get put it to the side. So it was a decent game. United, they're getting results, and what can you say? They literally are flying, aren't they? If you think about it, they're flying. They're going to be top of the league soon if they keep winning. And yeah, they're a team to stop at the moment, really.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I took, and you guys may agree from this game, is that, you know, Man United have had a massive upturn in fortune in terms of their results and the performances they put in. But actually, the game yesterday showed that they can also win when they're kind of backs against it and they're not performing at their best. They're now scraping wins as well. And that for them that's going to be a good thing for them, isn't it? Going into the rest of the season, don't you think so?
Is that from you talking about Man U?
Yes.
So again, we talk about Arteta and a style and a way of playing. I'm still not convinced about Ollie in terms of what he's actually bringing to the team. The way it looks to me is like he says he thinks he's a mini Sir Alex Ferguson. He says, "All right, lads, as that old style, go out and play. You can beat this team because you're better than them." I don't see any substance behind it. You know what I mean? I don't see. Right, this is what we need to do in this situation. It's almost like, right, we can't beat them that way. We're just going to have to play a bit more counter-attack. Now, yesterday, Watford had chances. Watford, you know, they looked like they were a decent team. They looked like they were matching them at times. And you're right in what you were saying now. Some of these players, you know, Harry Maguire, he didn't choose to get an 80 million price tag. But surely there must be more options for Man United. I like when Bailly comes into the team, he looks like he could play at a high level in terms of that. You know, Lindelof's a good player, but when they're playing around him, he seems to almost bring them down to that same level. Now, it's not all about Maguire. It's not always about him, but I just think for Man United, I don't know what their foundations are. Apart from Bruno Fernandes, you tell me what happens with that team. If he's not playing, what happens then? You know, I don't know. Don't know where they go.
What I'd say on that is, like, when you think about what you said about Solskjaer, Solskjaer's got some really good results. Oh, sorry. Hello? Yeah, sorry, I think it's slowed down.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Carry on.
Yeah. So what I was saying is, with regards to Ollie, he's we could say, like, oh, it looks like there's no substance, and I agree at times it looks like that, but sometimes if you look at results, he's got some good results. If you look at performances, some performances, they are breathtaking, like they're unstoppable, and you think, whoa.
I agree with you. It's the only thing with Man U is they start so slowly. Like, they go behind. It takes them to go behind for them to bring out this amazing performance. And I think, how long can this last until it starts, you know, catching up on them and they start actually dropping points? Because they take the lead and they don't take the lead and they always seem to get back into the game.
Right. So this is my point. Is that the manager or is that the players? Because if it's the manager, and you've seen a couple of times, this is what happens in games. You'd probably set something up a little bit differently. They're always seeming to have to do this gung-ho approach coming from behind. That means he's not setting the team up in a certain way at the beginning. And if he's not learnt them lessons from 2, 3, it's not like it's been happening on 2 or 3 times. If we're talking about 5, 6, 7, 8 times now, where they've had to come back from goals down to actually achieve results. For a team like Man United, that shouldn't be happening. And it's going to have an effect if they don't always pick up these results. And those results are based around, from what I can see, almost 1 or 2 players. You know, he's got Bruno Fernandes playing in the form of his life for Man United, and having just come to this country and done that, he's doing that well. He's somehow been able to get McTominay and Fred looking like really good players, and I don't rate them at all, but that's just my personal opinion. But it's the players who are turning up when they need to turn up, not him setting them up in a certain way to get a result. It's the player saying, you know what, with 2-0 down here, we need to win this game. Come on, let's do it. I don't see any tactical nous from him to suggest that he's made that difference. But as you said, Al, he's getting results, and that can only be good for Man United at the moment.
Yeah, and if he's getting results and he's getting 2 players that are playing above their station, surely the manager's got to get some credit.
I think I've got to credit him now. Like I'm reluctant on crediting Ollie just because I do agree. I think Bruno is the life force to that team. I think if Bruno doesn't play, then you really start to see how Ollie doesn't really know how to steer a boat when his best player is not there. But I think now I can see patterns of play, especially with their counterattacks. It's so electric. I think their counterattacks are better than our counterattacks, and our counterattacks are very, very electric. That's Tottenham's I'm speaking about. So I think that he has to coach something. And maybe he doesn't get the full game correct, but he is coaching a good attacking, counter-attacking team.
Darby, you know yourself, I don't think counter-attacking football is that difficult to coach. Personally, I don't believe it is. You defend deep and you get your players to move the ball quickly and you get players flying forward. If you've got certain attributes as a player, pace, and you've got a decent first touch and you've got a good eye to make a first pass, that's a standard. We're talking about professional footballers here. We're not talking about, under 18s, or we're not talking about Sunday league teams where you might have to do this a lot of times. Them players have played in teams where they should be able to do this every single day of the week. When you're having to do the other thing, when you're having to create as an attacking force, which Man United are used to, they've built all that on controlling games. I don't see that against certain opposition. Maybe if it's a weak opposition, possibly, but I don't see that. Man United have been always notorious for controlling games, lots of them at home and quite a lot of them away in the past. In my opinion, counter-attacking football can be done fairly easily. I can do that.
But does that come with then? I asked the question then. I say that Liverpool have replaced them because Liverpool are that dominant winning team. Does that fear come with you winning multiple titles and dominating your country's domestic trophy? Do you know what I mean? Does that come with that whole being able to dominate games and being able to instill that fear into teams before you've even kicked off? I feel like that comes with winning leagues. So I feel like if United were to win, I don't know, maybe the league or maybe even just a trophy, it would kind of make players of the opposition team feel a little bit more wary, just like they do with Liverpool. Liverpool players, it's only this season that teams have really decided to give it to Liverpool, and actually you've realised now if you do give it back to Liverpool, they are a little bit susceptible. So I think it's a case of not winning big trophies and not being that dominant team kind of allows teams to kind of think United is still United of the past, when I actually think they're a really, really good team, and I would be scared of facing United more now than I did before, obviously, when we beat them 6-1.
I'll say they've got really good players. Whether or not they're a really good team is debatable, but this is the thing. It's opinions, isn't it? My opinion is that I don't think they're a really good team because I don't see them controlling games. I see them winning games through a certain way of being able to come back in them, but they're not controlling games. And the Man United I'm used to watching control games at home, particularly at home. They can go away and they can do a lot. If you're going away and counter-attacking, I can understand that against some of the bigger teams, but I'm not seeing that on a consistent basis from a controlling the game perspective. That's my opinion.
No, some really good points then. And it will be very interesting if Ollie somehow manages to pull off the greatest ever coup and win the Premier League this year.
I don't know what will happen. I don't know what will happen.
Yeah.
But we've seen stranger things happen in football, that's for sure. But let's move on. Man City Birmingham. Pretty straightforward for Man City, 3-0 win. Did any of you manage to see the game?
No, I didn't catch this one.
No.
Didn't see that game.
No problem. But it was pretty straightforward, to be fair. Standard Man City performance, and they done well. We'll move on to the next game, Chelsea Morecambe. A good day out for Morecambe. And this is the question that I want to ask with this year's FA Cup. Do you think the FA Cup, what we see it as, the dream it is, especially for the lower league teams, like for example, using the Chelsea and Morecambe game, because of not having fans there and the situation we're in at the moment, do you think the magic of the FA Cup has been lost this season? What do you think, Darius? I'll come to you first.
I think it's still an opportunity for a lot of teams now, because if you look at the Premier League, a lot of your big six teams have been beaten by the Leicesters, the Aston Villas. I think for those teams who may not be on the top four level yet. So I know that Leicester and Villa are really pushing for it at the moment, but Wolves and Leeds, Leeds not anymore, but you teams that are pushing that top end of the Premier League, I think that's a really good opportunity to win a trophy. And I think it's a better opportunity now that there's no fans for a team like that to go and really push on and try and win something. And then again, your big six teams are always going to try and push for trophies. I think Arsenal now, knowing Arsenal haven't been great the past, how long have Arsenal not been great? 15 years? We could talk about that at a different time. But Arsenal haven't really been great, and they haven't been winning the trophies they want to win, but they've been consistently winning the FA Cup. And it kind of seems like that is something that they're going to fight for now. They put out a pretty strong team against Newcastle, so they're clearly taking it seriously. So I think the seriousness of the FA Cup is still there, and I think everybody still wants to win it as much. But yeah, I think the magic of the FA Cup is it's just not the same. I know if that Marine Stadium, I know we played today against Marine, if that Marine Stadium was full, it would have been a different game. I think I know we would have still won, but it would have been a lot more entertaining for fans of teams that aren't really going to get to see Tottenham's and Chelsea's come to their ground. So yeah, I think the magic is you've lost the magic this year, but I think it's still going to be a competitive FA Cup, and I think you'll see all the teams fielding out strong teams.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, coming to you, and I think I think it's a good time probably to go to the Tottenham Marine game. It just didn't, when we was watching it, it just didn't feel the same, did it? We didn't have the the day out, so to speak, that Marine would have had. I mean, and just to mention, one fantastic thing for Marine was they sold 10,000 virtual tickets, which is fantastic for them, and of course, what that would mean to them as a club. But it just today, I think we know that fans aren't there, and we're all missing football. But today, for me, I really felt how important fans were, and how important the FA Cup is for lower league teams. It was so much more noticeable today when you saw that the lower league teams not getting that day out experience and gate receiving things like that. I mean, do you? I imagine you feel the same. And how did it feel for you as a Premier League fan watching that game playing against the lower league team?
Because of where Marine are in the lower leagues, being tier 8, even if they had fans today, it would have been a little bit more pressure on the players, but I would still expect them players to go out and do exactly what they did today. Had that been, I don't know, a League 2 team, or maybe even a conference team, that would have probably been a bit more pressure on them because their ability would have been a bit more. Marine didn't have the ability, so they could have had 10,000 fans there. Their players weren't good enough. That's the bottom line. The pressure, these players should be able to play under the extreme pressure. What I was more concerned about was what the pitch was like. Was the pitch in a state where we could play passing games? And it wasn't too bad, to be honest with you. Yeah. There was a few bobbles here and there, but it was nothing that you would put your foot down and it's bouncing like a foot over you. So for that reason, there was no excuse for us not winning the game as we did today. Yeah, fans in there would have made a bit more of a party atmosphere, given the players a little bit more to think about at times, being in the corner of the stadium, being that small, a bit more pressure, a bit more grief being given to you. But these players should be able to deal with that. I'm not going to make excuses for a professional playing a tier 8 team. That's a standard result for me. But yes, the magic of the cup, when you've got fans there, does make this type of thing a little bit more romantic. And Marine, yeah, fair play to them. They turned up, they gave it a go in the first 20. But nah, for me, that was always going to be the case. But yeah, it's certainly something that's being missed with fans not being in the stadium.
Yeah, and Al, I mean, what did you think of Spurs' performance? It was a pretty straightforward kind of performance, wasn't it? Marine are obviously expected to lose that game, but did anyone stand out for you that you'd like to see continue playing well for Tottenham? Were you surprised by the team that Mourinho put out?
No, I wasn't surprised really by the team. I thought Bale probably would have started, but I think he's just come back from an injury. Apart from that, yeah, I want to see these players. A few youngsters got bedded in. I think it's like the perfect day, really. We didn't embarrass them, so that 5-0 is not a bad result. That for them, really. Yeah, it was everyone wins in that at the end of that. But with regards to no fans being there, it's upsetting. Before I actually watched it and thought, I've played a higher level than Marine. I've played for a team 2 divisions above Marine, and I'm nowhere near a top football player. So when I think that, wow, that's mental. Yeah, it is. And when I look at that, and I think if one of my teams that I played for would have drawn Tottenham, And literally, them fans being there for that one day, them fans would never forgot that you on that pitch. Like you would have been a superstar for them for the rest of your life because you played against.
Yeah.
The guy who hit the bar is probably going to get a flipping testimonial.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So if the fans were there, and then after you would have took your tops off, give it to the fans, all that stuff there was missed, and the result would never be any different. And the result, like I think, I agree with Sam. If it was a conference team, conference or higher, I mean, they can beat teams. Them conference and higher teams. If a few players don't turn up, them conference
100%.
players are they're mentally right and they're physically right, and they're gonna.
There's a lot of ex-pros as well in that conference league, though, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they've got a lot of know-how, and people like Mora and Fernandez, I'm not massively confident that they're going to perform every week. So if they didn't perform, then you've got a good team. But Marine, like Sam said, they're way below. I mean,
you know what I'm saying? And I was hearing when the commentators were saying, they're making some certain comments. We were talking about this earlier. They were making a comments like, one or two of the players, because they work shifts, they can't get to always come to train or make certain matches. The manager's like a facilities, but he's going back to work on Monday. Come on now, that could have been the big shot on goal, should they? Like really, truly, it would have been the biggest giant killing of all time in the FA Cup had we lost that game, and that's not even worth thinking about. So even if they had scored, we'd have probably been seeing this highlight for about the next fucking 10 years or so, because for Marine to score against the likes of Tottenham, who put out, don't forget, we had 9 internationals starting. We weren't like we put out under 23s or under 18s. Do you know what I mean? Well. We had a lot of players, but that's what Jose could do. He was able, and I respect him for that, because he took the competition seriously and he gave them as much respect as you can give a tier 8 team and said, "Here, lads, I want to see you perform professionally." And as you were saying now, we didn't embarrass them, but the scoreline reflected the difference in the team.
I think our under 23s would beat that team. Yeah. You would if Marino put out under 23s and they lost, I would get rid of every one of them under 23s, because they're not anywhere near ready to play for Tottenham's reserves or first team or anything. So,
well, if Alfie Devine's literally 16 years old in 100 days, and he looked like he could control that midfield, then
he would be their best player by a long way, like 100%, a long way. So
100%.
So that's so respect to Marino. He thought, this is the game. We're going to go there and we're going to show them some respect. You put Bale on the pitch, man. He's won the Champions League 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, that's so true.
That's respectful, but yeah.
I think like I'm happy with it. Like at the first 20, I was angry, but again, when you look at it, it's literally a bunch of guys who play football because they enjoy playing football and they have a job on the side. It's not their profession, and they're not making ends meet. They're not going to lose out if they don't play football. So I just think, it's one of them where I can't really take anything from the game. I've just got to look to the next game now, because there's never going to be. We're not going to play a team. I said this in the post-match reaction. We're not going to play a team like that for maybe another 2 or 3 seasons.
If you got to think, probably even half of Bale's wages, and he's on about 650k reportedly. Half of his wages is probably more than their whole ground cost. Do you know what I mean? The whole facility from built. That's the sort of level we're talking about. You could see there's people watching from their back gardens, and if the ball goes over, they've got numbers to kind of suggest, well, this is the number of the house that the ball's now in. Come on now, we've got to like to. As I said, for me, there was no real winners for Spurs in this today, because we had to go out and do the job. We did the job. Let's move on to the next game on Wednesday against Villa.
Yeah, well, it was a good result for you. But it was a fantastic result. You're in the hat. That's the main thing. That's what matters. But while we're on the kind of theme of getting towards the giant killings, I don't know if I would class this one as a giant killing, because West Brom's form has been poor. But obviously, West Brom went to extra time. Blackpool won on pens. Did you expect anything different, Al? Could you see anything different?
I watched that. That was actually quite entertaining, that game. I watched a bit of that. I watched extended highlights and that. Yeah, it was a good game. I mean, Blackpool, like I think, so what we're saying, like when you say conference and above, like Blackpool can beat teams. They got some good players. That second goal, where the little attack, I can't remember his name. But he was causing them havoc all game. Big striker, big tall guy, strong physically, and he buried it bottom corner. Players like that, they can cause you havoc. What's his name? Medine or something like that.
Angela, I think his name.
So he players like that, and they had some good players. So no, I'm not surprised. And Yeah, West Brom. Oh, boy, I don't know what's going on there, but they're not. Yeah, I don't. Nothing's happening there. So Big Sam hasn't had that injection, has he? I don't know how strong that.
Did we really think that was going to happen though? Like, I know that the whole Big Sam's never been relegated thing, but come on, like when's the last time he took a proper job? Like, really and truly, he's been out the game for a while now. So I wasn't expected. That West Brom team is just not good enough to be in the Premier League, and I don't think many man. I'd rather keep Bilic and play decent football than go down with Big Sam and then have to come up in the Championship with Big Sam. But I don't even think he's going to. I think he's going to last probably 2 or 3 more games.
Yeah, the players for me, like I said, Bilic was it's almost like the go from Poch to Mourinho, to go from Bilic to Big Sam. For the players must be a real shock, a real culture shock. Plus, as well, add to the fact they're not as good as other teams in the Premiership. The players are not good enough. So you've gone from a style of play where you're doing all right, you're not winning many games, but you're doing all right, to the way Sam wants you to play. I think for a lot of them, it's like, this isn't going to work anyway. So they've almost resigned to the fact that they're going down. I think they're going down. I don't think there's anything much he can do to instill more belief in them. I don't know if Sam can win the hearts of these players by saying, right, we need to keep clean sheets. Clean sheets are more important than goals. It's a very, very difficult situation they've found themselves in, and one I don't think they're going to get themselves out of. That's in the league. The FA Cup game, as you were saying now, Blackpool, they've been in the Prem recently, not too long ago. So, they've got something about them. They've got some, players that can play at a decent level and will probably go a little bit higher. So it wasn't a massive shock. It wasn't a massive shock to me.
Here's an interesting one. So, do you think, like, for example, West Brom's a really good team to use in this? You look at Leeds and you look at West Brom and how they've approached coming into the Premier League. Leeds have kind of gone with that almost gung-ho mentality of, listen, we'll try and outscore teams if we can, but if we lose, we lose. And West Brom have kind of come in and tried to be a little bit more defensive and try and not leak goals and things like that. Do you think that a lot of teams that come up try and approach the Premier League like that, where they're almost like, right, let's obviously both teams want to stay in the league, but they're working so hard on worrying about everybody else in the Premier League rather than themselves. And I feel like Leeds are the opposite way. They're just, Bielsa's got them worrying about them and what they do, and that is it. Do you think that makes a big difference for the teams, and that's why West Brom and Leeds almost look far apart when it comes to performances in the Premier League? What's your thoughts on that, Darius?
I'm a big advocate on playing good football, entertaining football. In terms of a relegation battle or maintaining your position in the Premier League, for me, as a club, if I was not entirely sure on whether I was going to stay up, I would want to play good enough football that I'd be at least proud to watch my team. Because if you know that you're not going to have a really good opportunity in the Premier League, would you not want to just watch your team play decent football? I mean, if you're going up and going down and playing that football, it might not be as fun, but I think Leeds are fine. They're going to stay in the league. West Brom, however, I think they were going to go down regardless. So if you're going to go down with Allardyce, it's not really going to be nice. I mean, I'd much rather go down with Slaven Bilic and then potentially go back up, because they did well in the Championship last season. So I'm not too sure. I think a big team, your big 6 teams playing good football is something that you want to add on to winning things, and I think that comes as a precedent for when they're looking for managers, because you want to dominate games, like we were saying about Man United. You want to dominate games being a big teams, but when you're a smaller team, as we say, and you may be not guaranteed to have your place in the league, and West Brom have just come up, and they're not really. I don't think West Brom are going to stay in the league for more than they were going to stay in the league for more than 2 seasons. I think you kind of want to go out with a little bit of pride. I think that's the point I'm trying to make, is if you play decent football, you go out with a little bit more pride than if you just kind of put 2 banks of 5 at the back and just basically either the team you play against doesn't score and you might get a point, or you're never really gonna win the game, are you? Because you're not trying to attack. So I just think it's better for a team to maybe be a little bit more attacking and go out with a little bit more pride. Yeah.
Sam, what's your thoughts on it?
Okay, so a team that comes up, if you don't spend money, okay, take it back. Okay, the whole idea is to try and stay in the Premier League, so you got to do whatever you can to stay in there. Leeds have spent the best part of £100 million £5 invested in the team to stay up. Now, they have to now stay up. So they're playing a style of football to probably give them the best opportunity. If you can outscore your team, great. If you score goals, you've got a better chance. Sam Allardyce has got a different opinion. He's like, if you keep clean sheets, you can't lose a game. But you're talking the Premier League here. There's so many teams in there that can score regardless of how you defend. It doesn't take a lot for you to score a goal if you're a really good team. Like, look at the likes of Man City and Liverpool have done previously in terms of the number of goals that have been scored. So I don't think that approach by Sam Allardyce is really going to work. I like Leeds' approach, but there comes a point where they're going to have to make a decision. Is this same approach going to keep us in a division? They may have to maybe slightly adapt that approach to stay in a division. Aston Villa, by the skin of their teeth, did that last season, and look where they are now. They were able to add to that same attacking flair that they had in the likes of Jack Grealish. They've added that by having someone like Ollie Watkins come on. They've got like McGinn playing in really good form. So you can build on it. But the whole idea is in the Premier League, you've got to stay in there. If you come up, you've got to stay there if you can. I don't think West Brom are giving themselves the best opportunity to stay in the division. And I think now it's being seen. I don't think Sam's going to get anything out of these players enough to be able to climb enough places to stay in there. Leeds have already done a lot of that initial hard work by getting as many points as they could early doors. And now we're going to begin to see if they're going to drop off a lot. It's going to be interesting to see how they approach the next half of the season. Are they going to play the same way?
Think, like, you look at Newcastle and they kind of play similar football to West Brom, but Newcastle have a lot more quality in their team. So that's why it's kind of,
you have to have
compensate. That's what I'm saying. I think overall quality in the Premier League is going to shine through. You can, especially when you're a team lower in the division, you can play a style of football that can compensate for your quality like Bielsa does. But at the end of the day, if you play a style of football like Sam Allardyce, it's not going to compensate for quality. It's kind of just trying to damage limitations, isn't it? You're not really going to get anywhere, are you?
You just have to look historically at the game. The game's changed. Like a lot years back, you could see there was probably a lot more 0-0s, you know, going back to the old Arsenal days, you know, the 1-0 victories, keeping clean sheets. There's not that many of them results anymore because teams know that you have to score goals, and that's why these players, the likes of Harry Kane's, your Mo Salah's, they cost so much money because they're the difference. They score you the goals. And if you've got that type of quality in the Premier League, I don't care how great you are defensively, you're going to concede at some point, and you will do. You have to have a balance, and the balance for me has got to be more so in the favour of scoring goals than it is about keeping clean sheets.
Yeah, no, some really good points there. I mean, Al, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, I agree with some of the points. I disagree with some of the others. So for me, we're comparing Leeds with West Brom for starters. I know Leeds have been down for a long time, but Leeds are double the club that West Brom are in size for starters, and with the area that they're in, their catchment for Manchester clubs. So any cast-offs from them clubs, youth teams, they end up at Leeds. So Leeds have that in their favour massively because Man City and Man United are two of the best clubs in the country. So they've got that in their favour. West Brom are a yo-yo club, so they're up and down. Leeds have been building for this promotion for a long, long time, and now finally got it, and they've built their style of play for when they do get it. West Brom are up and down, so there's no stability there. Although money-wise, you could say that they probably had more money because they're going up and down getting parachute payments. But no, I'd never compare them to. I know they came up together, but and then on the flip side, for me, defending is going to be controversial, but defending for me is the way to stay in the league. So Burnley, Bolton, in the last 20 odd years, Bolton stayed for how many years playing boring football, not exciting football, playing lump it forward to Kevin Nolan and who was the striker there? Davis, wasn't it? Was it Kevin Davis? Davis, them two, and get some scrappy, make it hard for them to come. Stoke done it. Stoke as well. Yeah, gotcha. He's a baller. Stoke done it as well. Burnley done it as well. Every flamboyant team that's come up has gone down within 2 years. Every flamboyant team. Norwich came up, looked fancy. They looked really pretty on the eye, and then they went down. Leeds, they'll come up if they don't change. But Leeds might be slightly different because they're so big. Like Leeds will get players.
And they've
People
bought
want
quality players as well, haven't
they've
they?
got some very good players, and they've got a very good manager as well.
And that's the difference. That's the difference for me. Yeah, they've got quality and they've got a good manager as well. I know what you're saying about defense, and that does bear out in some of the stats in terms of keeping clean sheets. It's more likely that a better defense, because nobody wins the Premier League usually by having the greatest attack but then the worst defense. It doesn't happen like that. So you need to combine the two. But as I said, the way the game, in terms of results I'm seeing now, there's so many more teams going for it. There's so many more teams not just relying on. I know Jose is probably a bit more of a throwback. He's trying to go for this 1-0, and look what's happened to Spurs.
He's got two of the best forward players in the world, and even then we still can't win all the games. Exactly,
we've got quality, and we're still trying to win games, nicking 1-0, and we've seen teams can come in at any point, a set piece, a corner, a free kick, and it can all go to pot. So you've just got to go for them goals. You've got to score those goals, and you do have to have a good balance. But it's definitely a fine balance between staying in the division by a certain way of playing. Can you be all defensive and do it that way? I'm not so sure these days it can be done. I think Leeds, as you said, comparing the two teams is probably not quite the right thing to be doing, but they have got more quality. And I think West Brom, let's say they could add a real quality striker to their lineup, maybe someone in midfield, and then one more. You're talking about you need probably 3 players at least of top quality to come in and maybe give them a chance. But as I said, I
don't think they've got a chance. But with just when I think of Burnley being that club that people should look up to and aspire to be, I know that they're boring, and I know that that's the way they play. But look at what they've done. They came up,
and they finished 8th as well at one point.
They've done really well, and they beat teams. They beat teams regular. And Chris Wood, for me, is so underrated. Like, he's got everything. He's strong. He's good in the air. He's good on the floor. And he could go somewhere. I actually wanted him to come to Tottenham.
It's only the finishing that I had a problem with Chris Wood, because I was actually not bothered about those rumours either. It's only his finishing that maybe could be improved. But in terms of an overall striker, that's a different aspect. That's a whole different style of football you can play with Chris Wood. Yeah,
but Burnley have got him. Remember that Burnley have him. So Burnley can defend, knowing that Chris Wood and a couple of people around him. They got Dave Rodriguez as well, haven't they?
And Dwight McNeil, who I think is a very, very good player as well.
That's what I mean. They've got some good players. So they're the way they're set up is right. Defend first, but you've got some good players. A bit like a lower level to what we do. But, West Brom haven't got any of that stuff. They haven't got any good players. Like, I know obviously they're top. When I say that, I don't not disrespecting them. They're top footballers. But when they hit levels, isn't it? Levels and
Premier League levels, isn't it?
Yeah, levels.
No, some good points there. And touching on Chris Wood, I mean, I was fortunate enough to play alongside him, and I agree with you 100% out. He really is underrated. I'm surprised that a so-called bigger Premier League team or kind of top 8 team, so to speak, hasn't taken a chance on him, because I think he would add a lot of value to teams for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I really rate him. I've watched him live a few times.
We're going to go for 2 more games. Sorry, I'll continue. Sorry.
No, I just watched him live a few times, and what you don't realize until you see him and the size of his shoulders and stuff like that, and you think, boy,
he's a
big fella.
He's a big
unit. But he's got quality as well, like you said. I've seen him do a few things for them when he's scored different types of goals. He's not just a battering ram. Like people look at someone like Andy Carroll and think, "What? You just got to throw it up in the air for him." This is a little different. You can play it along the deck to him. He can do different things as a striker, which is what you want, and that's what quality gives you. That's what quality gives you.
I agree.
100%. Well, gents, listen, we're going to go for these last 2 games. Surely Darby. Derby obviously fielded their 23s because of what's going on there. I suppose it's disappointing for Derby fans, isn't it? Really, realistically, they're going to expect to still go through. And you mentioned it earlier, didn't you, Al, about if Tottenham 23s didn't beat Marine, then you would have been telling them they all need to go because they're not ready. Do you think Derby 23 should have won this game?
I don't know. I'd only watched some of the game. I didn't watch all the game, but yeah, obviously their 23s are not of the quality that potentially they should be. I mean, when you're at 23, surely you could be picked at any time to be in the first team squad. You should be virtually ready. but to play in the Championship, like you should. Ideally, you should be ready. At least half of them should be ready. So, and they're not. So it'd be a worry, wouldn't it, for the manager? So, but yeah, I think yeah, I don't know. I didn't watch enough of it to be able to comment too much on it. But yeah, you would expect a Derby under 23 team to win that game, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, did you manage to catch the game, Darius, at all, or Sam? Did you manage to catch the game?
No, I didn't. I didn't watch that game. I'm not gonna lie. Darby and Shirley, I was like, not really fussed about that one.
I don't know what division Chorley and where did Chorley play?
For you guys, yeah.
No, I was going to say where did Chorley play? What league are they in? Sorry,
it's a good question.
I don't even know where they are.
I know what Spurs fans are like. They only concentrate
on. In terms of the result, you know, again, it's a banana skin because they must be a higher place than what Marino. So they're going to be maybe a couple seasons. I'm only making some. I don't know where.
I think they're in the conference, surely.
Okay, so therefore, for that reason, as you were talking about earlier, that's a little bit more difficult. At any point, you've got some players in there that are probably, you know, come from professional outfits and now drop down into that. There's some really good players in the conference, you know, so let's not get it twisted. There's some really good players. But you're right in what you're saying. Some under 23s at Derby, no pressure on them in terms of the added pressure of having the crowd in there to kind of like put that on them. I didn't see enough of the game to know whether they're trying to play football, what it was. But in terms of the result, was it 3-0? I think it was. Surely they must have, you know, been very clinical in their approach. I don't know if Derby was it 2-0. Yeah, so
they're in the National League North. I've just looked up. So the division below the conference. That's the division below the conference, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, they're still got to have some very good players. Yeah, they're still got that level there. I mean, our tiers are strong, aren't they, all the way through? Yeah, so they're gonna have some good players.
Yeah. And last game, Bristol Rovers versus Sheffield United. Sheffield United scraped through. Obviously, we know Sheffield United having a very difficult season in the Premier League. Do you think this will give them confidence, Darius, to try and maybe mount, you know, some results in the league?
I don't know if this is going to be controversial, but if I was a Sheffield United player and if I was Chris Wilder, I'd literally just go all out for this FA Cup. I really don't see how Sheffield United can have any sort of positive outlook of the Premier League right now. They're on 2 points still after 17 games. They might do worse than Derby's 11. I genuinely think they might not get 11 points. So let's be really honest with ourselves. And I think they've been honest with themselves as well. I don't think they're going to get out of this relegation battle. So if you've got an opportunity to give your fans something to even go into a semi-final, being able to go to Wembley or go into a final, it can do the world for you. And and we can look at Wigan, and Wigan, I know it's a one-off example, but it really galvanized. Like it's just nice to see. Like I know they got relegated afterwards, but it's nice to see that for the fans that if your team's doing terrible, you can still look forward to having a decent end to your season. So if I was Sheffield United, I would honestly just field the strongest team I can, just go all out for that FA Cup and see how far you can go. I know they're not going to get any close to winning it, but at the end of the day, you can do it. You can draw 0-0. Sheffield United can draw 0-0 in the next round of the cup, go to extra time, take it to penalties, and go through again. They don't actually have to score any goals to go through. So they could actually do something. I think they should just go for it and just see what happens.
What's your thoughts on this, Sam? What's your thoughts on Sheffield United this season as well?
Again, I'll try not to be disrespectful. They had no business surviving last season, but they did. They obviously played a certain way, which caught a lot of teams out. They managed to stay in division, which is fantastic for them.
Finished 9th, don't forget.
Yeah. Fair play to them. They have, to a point, been, I guess, found out now. And as you were saying, Darius, they ain't got any hope of hell of staying in this division this season. So your fans are now looking at any sort of little things. Can we have a bit of a cup run? Can we possibly get to?
Can we win a game in the league? Win a game in the league.
Yeah, but taking that aside, I think we all know as football people, as football fans, as ex-players, all the rest of it, they're done. They're toast. They're not going to get out of this one. No way in hell. So what have you got to look forward to but a cup run? You know, these are the things where I don't know what the team they put out, but if they rested players, I'd be like, what are you doing? Why are we resting players? Because you've got no chance. You've got no chance. So the only thing you can do is give the players that are playing more confidence to maybe go forward and win a couple of games in the Premier. If you go out of the FA Cup at the third round stage, then that is literally you for the season. You use nothing else.
No confidence for any game.
And there's no confidence because the players that are playing in the league now, if you then say, right, we're going to rest you for the league, which you've only got 2 points in, we're going to play these younger players and they come in and don't do anything. Where do you go from there? You've got nothing. So again, I'm glad that they've got through. It will be interesting to see what they do in the next round, who they put out. But if they start resting players and saying, "Oh, we're concentrating on the league,"
give that up, please.
Give it up. It's finished.
I'll let you close this one up with Sheffield United. I know you spoke about them a few times and how you feel with their season so far. Anything you want to add?
Well, I don't know. Well, just looking at the league table, them three at the bottom are gone, in my opinion. and
who's in the 17th, 18th,
Fulham, West Brom, and Sheffield United.
Fulham,
and then,
that's it. Yeah.
But you got Brighton above Fulham, but Fulham have got 2 games in hand. So really, and they're only 3 points.
One is us.
Yeah, so they're only 3 points behind. So really, if you looked at it on paper and you didn't know about the teams, you'd think Fulham could go 3 points above Brighton. But for me, Brighton will not finish in the bottom 3. I think they've got too much about them. Above that is Burnley. No way they will finish in the bottom 3, in my opinion. And then you're looking at Newcastle, Palace, Wolves, Leeds, Arsenal.
That's what I'm saying. This league is just ridiculous.
They're that far down, I just realised. But
I had to get that one in there.
But when you think about it, they're done for. Like I honestly think so. It's only Brighton that could potentially be sucked in, and Brighton won't get relegated. I'd be surprised.
As you said, they've got too many better players. That's what I'm saying. Brighton have got better players.
And a good manager, a really good manager. I think he's going for a decent manager. So
so them 3 are gone. So with regards to Sheffield United, I suppose you could look at it 2 ways. You could go for it, but then you get Man City away next round. You get knocked out, and you've gone for it. Then your players are going to think, what are we going to do now? So I think you need to play every game as a cup final and say, right, the aim is now to get to 11 points. Like, let's not be the worst.
Yeah,
and then when they get there,
double digits.
And if they get to 11, they're not the worst team ever. Then start reassessing and saying, right, now let's try and go to 20 points.
Yeah,
and then just slow, like win every game or let's try and beat a big club this year. Just something, just give them something to play for, and maybe try and bed some of the youngsters. And I'd be telling the players, look, if you lot want to, we're not going to be in the Premier League next season. So if you lot want to stay, you better play for yourself as well. Because
and it's a couple players that can. I think that Sander Berger can definitely play for a Premier League team, and Ryan Brewster, I don't think would stay there. McGoldrick, a couple good players. So
that's what I would be doing if I was a Sheffield United player. I'll be playing for myself now, but as part of a team. But I'll be thinking, right, I need to show that I'm good enough to play in the Premier League because I want someone to buy me. So every team I played against, exactly. You played against, you say their manager is watching me. I want to know if he thinks I'm good enough. So worse. I mean, West Brom. Remember when they survived? Do you remember that year? I mean, I do not know how they survived that. Do you remember they won they hadn't won an away game, and then they won like 3 away games in a row, and they hadn't won one for about 4 years.
Yeah, man,
but it's weird. So it can happen, and it'd be weird if they won 2 games and then they're on 8 points, and then they're level with Fulham, and then they're level with the next team above them, West Brom, and they'd start them thinking, well done,
they
would winners in games here. But when I look personally, it'd be very surprising if them 3 didn't go down, and we're not even halfway through the season.
That's crazy.
As you said, the only one in doubt is possibly Fulham, but you just read out them teams above them, and all of them teams above them, I think, are better. So I don't see them going down.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true.
No, one more shot. That's how I bow.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm gonna have to finish it off on that.
Cool.
It's been a good show, but before we go, I'm going to ask for your predictions of the Stockport West Ham game. Sam, what prediction are you going to give me? Stockport West Ham, what do you think the score will be?
3-0 West Ham.
3-0, was that 3-0, did you say?
3-0, yep.
Al, what do you think?
Yeah, they should win that comfortably. I can't see them resting any players for that. And I think what's happened with the FA Cup is that because COVID could cancel a game at any minute, teams like they've just thought, let's just play our strongest team because next week the game might be cancelled anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that they're just starting to play each game as it comes. I think that's why Marino's team today was strong. Oh, at Villa, that's probably going to get called off midweek. So he's thinking, I'll just bring everyone apart from Harry Kane. So yeah, I think that West Ham will play a strongest team and they'll win. I think the last 8 of this FA Cup is going to be all the big clubs unless they play each other on the way.
Yeah. Darius?
I'm gonna say, just to be a bit different, let's say 4-1, and let's say Ben Rama to score a hat-trick because I think Ben Rama is such a good player and I want to see Ben Rama in Tottenham. So yeah, they've got West Ham. I'm telling you, West Ham's team, if they had a manager who could actually who played, and we talk about the football style of football, if West Ham had a manager who could play very good attacking football, like Hasenhüttl at West Ham or something like that, like West Ham's got very, very good players. So I'm one to watch for West Ham unless they get all the players swiped off them. But
let's not boost up West Ham.
No,
like
I'm telling you, West Ham and Villa are the teams. West Ham and Villa are the teams that I'm riding for.
I'm not having
proper riding for them.
Let's remember, you're saying that West Ham have built a good team and they're playing well, and then you knock the manager, but the manager built the team.
But yeah, I guess you're right. You are right. What you're saying.
How are you not even giving West Ham praise? What do they do
good,
to us?
man. They're good.
No, man, I'm not having none of that. I'm not having none of that.
He's got that free in his head. He's not getting that free.
I'm not having West Ham. I've got too many West Ham mates. I don't like them. I don't like them.
Yeah, that's for another show. I think.
Spurs fans always supporting another London club.
We'll be supporting Arsenal soon. They'll be our championship team.
Bloody hell.
It's been a fantastic show. Thank you for joining me again today.
Superb.
Oh, brilliant. Listen, I'm happy to take the stick. It's all right. Arsenal haven't been good. I'll take it on the chin.
That's all right.
But listen, gents, thank you again for joining me. It's been a fantastic show. A real pleasure. I hope you have a fantastic evening. For everyone else, thank you for watching tonight. Make sure you keep liking and subscribing and following us. And we shall see you again next week. Take care.
Yeah.